This is Thieves Cant Capers, unlocking the systems behind the stories. It is Thieves Cant Capers, our deep dive into systems, mechanics, concepts, and the games that we love to play. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
And welcome back to Thieves Cant Capers, the draw steel job. If, by the way, you are looking for the basics of draw steel, or you want to hear more about draw steel's ancestries, you need to go back a couple of episodes and check out the previous weeks in which we have gotten into those chapters. Because today, Chris, we are pushing forward into Chapter 3, all about backgrounds, culture, careers. It was our initial plan to also start looking at classes today. But I think we both came to the same conclusion after finishing up our read-through of Chapter 3. And that is that Chapter 3 is more robust than it initially appears.
A time raider visited me and informed me that Chris White in the future wanted to let me know that I'm an idiot.
Right.
Because that was not happening. Way too much information there.
Yeah. So if you were hopeful for classes today, and that's what brought you back, please accept our humble apologies. Classes, they are coming. They are coming. But Chapter 3 is going to deserve our attention. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. Before we do, though, Chris, something that we haven't really paused to take a moment to discuss yet is the layout of draw steel. What are your impressions of the layout to this point?
I think it's going to come much more into play when we get into the classes section.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I know Matt Colville's involved, but I got kind of a 4E vibe, like out of how a lot of the powers and abilities are laid out. And I'm going to be honest, they're really easy to read. So, in fact, through the whole book, I felt like it was laid out very intentionally and intelligently. There's just certain abilities that I looked at them and I thought, man, if this was 5e Dungeons and Dragons, this would be like 4 paragraphs describing what's happening here. You know what I mean? And instead, this was just, a series of numbers based off those successes. It was laid out very easily. I could just reference it, boom, done. And so I feel like they did a great job laying it out. I feel like it's well done.
I think it's easy to follow. Every chapter begins with that solid black, like splash page, right? A clear, just visual indicator. Oh, new chapter is beginning here. And then from there, you get that nice clean, I don't know if it's just a stark white or maybe an off-white. I can't tell for sure. Again, we're just working off the PDF at this point.
Right.
But it makes for a very clean layout. Now, some folks might say it's too sterile, but I rather enjoy it.
I like it too. I think it's easy to read. And so far everything we've gone through has made sense. And again, I just think it was laid out well.
Yeah. We can't mention layout without mentioning the art as well. We talked cover art whenever we recorded the first episode in the series, but we really haven't mentioned anything about the art since then. Impressions on the art to this point?
The art is good. I mean, it's all really well done. I don't care for the aesthetic. It's not my fantasy preference, but it's well done. I mean, this is not amateur work. It's obviously professionals making this art. It's just the style. It's the way the different ancestries are illustrated. It might not be my preference, but I think it's well done.
Yeah, the quality of the art is top notch.
Yeah.
Aesthetics aside, I think.
Right.
I love like the full bleed art on some of these pages, all bleeding all the way to the edge of the page.
Yeah.
I love some of the stained glass images that you see throughout the book on certain pages.
It does not look like AI art, for sure.
No.
It's definitely someone that worked on these.
Yeah, made by humans. By humans. All right. So with that, let's hit Chapter 3.
All right.
Chapter 3, background. This chapter emphasizes from the top that your hero was not just born heroic. Events and circumstances have shaped this individual. And that's where background comes in. And your background is made up of a couple of things: culture and career. So what Draw Steel means by culture, this would be your hero's beliefs, their customs, values, way of life of the community that raised them. In game terms, culture has 4 aspects. Okay, you've got language, environment, organization, and upbringing. They even give us a couple of tables here at the start of the chapter to help you build or modify different cultural aspects.
The tables, you just have to remember, are the typical example, but they're not locked in, because it's not always going to be the case that a given ancestry is going to know a certain language or have a different, specific environment they grow up in.
Yeah, which reminds me, it bears repeating here that what Draw Steel does with culture, other game systems might be baking this information into their version of ancestry, where Draw Steel says your ancestry only determines so much, and really not that much, right, about your character. Culture is way more impactful.
Yeah, if you think about it, think about a dwarf. They have physical characteristics that are set in stone, right? Okay.
Hey.
See what I did? But, they're going to be tough, okay? And that's going to impact the type of character that you are. But if you're a dwarf that grows up surrounded by dwarves versus if you're a dwarf that grows up in an elven community.
Like in one of the wodes?
Right. You're going to have a very different outlook. You're going to have a very different understanding. It's going to impact your languages. It's going to be a completely different character. And so this is a reflection of that. Your ancestry is a starting point, but a lot of what shapes you as a character, and that's really what these backgrounds seem to be getting at, is going to be your environment. It's not just nature there. In this case, it's nurture.
So there are some benefits that every hero gains from their culture. First of all, you know the language of your culture. So you get a language. In addition to knowing the common tongue, which Draw Steel, the default setting, is called, I've been saying Kalian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the language of a fallen empire. And so it is the common tongue in this setting. So you've got the common tongue, you've got the language of your culture. You're also going to gain skills based on the environment, the organization, and upbringing aspects. You get one skill from each of those aspects. So if you've been wondering all this time, you keep mentioning skills. Where exactly do they come from? Well, this is where, again, Draw Steel doesn't necessarily tie skills to your attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Next, you gain an edge when trying to recall lore about your culture and when you're trying to influence or interact with people of your culture. If you share that culture, you relate to those people better, right? And so it's reflected within the mechanics of the system. You want to dive a little deeper into languages themselves? I found this languages section especially interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are some really cool bits here. Quite a few languages for the many different regions of humans, which I found was interesting. It's not just we all speak common. No, depending on the region you're from, if you're playing a human, you might speak an entirely different language than that human over there.
Which makes sense.
Sure. Humans being the most populous ancestry in the default setting, of course, as well. Makes sense that they would have the most languages. You get cool little bits of lore in this section. You never know when the lore is going to come up, right? For example, the Hakan, they speak Voric, we're told, which is an offshoot of High Curic, the language of the stone giants, from which the Hakan have descended.
Right.
If you're a linguist, if you're into linguistics, this is pretty rich stuff here.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting.
There are at least layers of thought.
Which is a theme throughout this game. It is obvious the people that put this game together in every aspect thought about the real world and the impact that environment can have and that language barriers have and they've applied it. And it makes for a more rich game if you want to delve into this aspect.
Are these the sorts of minutia that can bog a game down? Do you see that risk here?
Well, it depends. Is everyone enjoying it? I mean, that's if we're digging into the differences in language. Language can be a barrier to fun, or it can be a pathway to it. Yeah. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I only ask that question because Draw Steel bills itself as a cinematic game, and by cinematic we know that they mean it doesn't concern itself with lists and tedium, but in certain regards it certainly tends to. We'll get into that more in classes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I think this is, by and large, it's how much do you want to invest in it? It's sort of up to each.
It's one of those you can take or leave. Right. I like the language of the devils here, Anjali. The language of contract law, which is perfect. I mean, in the 7 cities of hell, the devils and all the bureaucracy, and if they're summoned and they're sealing deals, they're speaking legalese.
Yeah, it's the language of the contract. Everybody's looking for a loophole.
The timescape itself has its own common language, axiomatic. It's the tongue of the mnemonic. And then I especially liked in this section the table of dead languages. So here are all the languages of the world, but you know what? You might run into some people, and maybe you're one of them, that speak these dead languages of these, old cultures, right?
And then, maybe you're the scholar that's digging through notes trying to solve a mystery, and you need to know the equivalent of Latin in order to decipher those notes. Certainly interesting.
Yeah. This small section within the chapter kind of opened my eyes up to how much fun you can have with languages in your game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. From languages, we move on to environment. Where do people of this culture spend most of their time? There's a list to choose from: nomadic, rural, secluded, urban, and wilderness. And again, each environment grants its own different skill depending on your choice. Do you think those 1, 2, 5 cover it?
Yeah, I mean, this is literally just the environment. It's just did you grow up out in the woods or did you grow up in the city?
All right. After environment, then organization. What does the leadership of your community look like? How does it function?
Yeah. Is it a bureaucratic society? Is it communal?
Yeah, those are your two choices, it looks like, bureaucratic or communal. So how much government is in place, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, to some extent, law and chaos. I mean, it's almost a way you could look at it.
Yeah.
A communal culture, it's more everybody has a voice. Everybody has an impact. It takes everyone, it takes a village to raise a child, and those ideas can get blotted out by a strong bureaucracy with strong rules and accepted practices that are enforced. So it's just that's how I started viewing it, was law and chaos. I think you could argue against that, but that's how it seemed to me.
All right. So again, you'll choose one of those, bureaucratic or communal, and once you make that choice, guess what you get?
You get a skill.
Yes, you do. You get another skill. We're just stacking them up at this point. And then finally, that fourth aspect of culture, upbringing. This is a more specific aspect of culture than those others are. How were you specifically raised within your culture? And they give you, again, a list to choose from: academic, creative, labor, lawless. I was raised lawless. Martial, or noble. And of course, you get a skill.
It's just building. It's interesting, do you make the choice based on which one applies to the character, or do you just pick which skills you think are cool and see what you end up with?
All right. So how much does this open the door to, min-maxing?
Right.
No more than any other game,
no,
right?
Not it's all the same. What do you want out of this? What's the expectation?
I got to be honest, I like the way that it's all broken out, that the game actually asks you to think about each of these aspects individually, rather than just having them all lumped under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Make one broad generic choice. No, it says, no, make lots of specific choices. It's just further customization. And sure, if you want to find if you want to crack the code and put together the ultimate recipe, I guess you can, if that's your kind of fun.
Right. I like the way they dig into it because it's definitely going to another level beyond what a lot of RPGs do. So I like it.
Okay, so you've established your culture, right? Language, environment, organization, upbringing. And now we've got to answer the question of, hey, before you became a hero, before you settled on the adventuring life, what were you doing for pay? What was your career? I like that the game in this regard advises the players to share these details with the director so that the director can work with those details, layer them into the story. I know we've got some players that might be a little gun shy to share certain information with their director, with their game master, because, if I share this with you, then you might use it against me. Right?
And some would.
Right.
I've played with them.
Yes. And this game says, no, be open with that information so that you can have a richer experience.
Right.
And I think that's good advice to follow.
It is. Yeah.
Your choice of career is going to grant you 2 or 3 skills. You might get an additional language from your career. Some even increase your renown score. That'll have to do with your negotiations, your interactions with others. Mm-hmm. Some will also increase your wealth. Maybe you'll receive project points to spend on crafting and research. You also get a perk, another bit of customization with a non-combat focus. Perks are covered in a later chapter, but they do different things. Like some are going to improve your crafting talent or your interactions with other creatures. Others are going to make you a better investigator or explorer. D20 feats kind of come to mind here. Yeah. Right? Of the non-combat variety.
Mm-hmm.
So your career is actually giving you potentially quite a bit.
Yeah. This is the most fun part for me, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I really like this part, especially I really like the inciting incident. I like that aspect of it.
Basically, every career entry is going to feature a list of prompts. It says you can answer as many of those as you would like to, but then ultimately to answer the question of why you shed your old lifestyle to pursue adventure, each career has a random table. We love those.
Yeah.
Of, as Chris said, inciting incidents. They are optional. Right?
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to randomize it.
No, but if you want to lean into that and just, let the gods decide, then you can.
Yeah, because a lot of them, it just seems like they would be fun. I'm looking at aristocrat from, a charmed life, an inheritance, privileged position, royal pauper, wicked secret, whatever it is, they all look fun.
Right.
It all looks like just it's a deeper aspect of the character.
Yep. So you can roll on that table. You can simply read the options and pick your favorite, or you don't have to do anything with that table. You can just come up with your own inciting incident. Whatever you decide to do, the game does recommend, though, when deciding what that inciting incident is, also figure out what was taken from you during that inciting incident.
Right.
Now, that could be something. It could be something that maybe you're able to get back. It might be something that's lost forever.
Yep.
It might be something literal. It could be more figurative.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not come up with an inciting incident yet.
Well, it's just automatic motivation baked into these characters. You are getting to know this character. Its personality is coming to life as you're building it.
You mentioned aristocrat, other career options, agent, artisan, beggar, criminal, disciple. There's explorer. You've got farmer, gladiator, laborer, mage's apprentice, performer, politician, sage, sailor, soldier, warden, watch officer. Tons of options here.
The one I was looking for that I didn't see here was showgirl.
Missing from the list.
I wanted to be a lawless showgirl, but...
Well, I was going to ask if there were any careers missing from the list, but I suppose that answers that question.
It covers that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, clearly there are, right? I mean, it's a limited list, but some of them I think could encompass.
They're broad enough.
Yeah, right. It's a broad enough profession that it could cover a lot of different things, and it wouldn't be hard to make one of these based off the examples we have here either.
Sure. So, you could come up with your own inciting incident table. This would be easy enough to homebrew, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this chapter. I've been antsy to get to classes, right? When I approached this chapter like, okay, more RPG veggies.
You know what I didn't like? You know what I didn't like?
What's that?
Is some of these questions. Because it's like, I don't want to answer that. You know what I mean? Like, that's hard.
Right.
I don't want to think that hard about this, but they're really thoughtful. Like the watch officer, right? Sounds fun.
Okay.
You're the police of the city or whatever, but it's just examples. What criminal still eludes you?
Ooh.
Who are you after you were never able to get? Whose life did you save in the line of duty? How cool if it's another party member?
Right. To make those connections.
Yeah, or even if it's not an NPC, that's a connection, and like there's some trust there, there is so much fun baked into these backgrounds. It's just that. Like, don't sleep on it. Like, this is session zero magic. I'm telling you.
The more that I read in this chapter, the more I started to slow down. And, well, I mean, I've already stated how much I love that they broke all of this out and made you think about it step by step.
Yes.
One thing at a time, rather than just lumping it all generally under that one umbrella.
Well, and this is not how I think, right? When I think, it's like, okay, this background has this benefit, this benefit, this benefit. But these are so much more fun. Like again, I'm going to go back to watch officer. Here's one of the questions. What is the most absurd call you ever responded to, and how did you handle it? Now, if I choose to, I would never in character creation have thought to ask that question. But how cool is it when the party's sitting around the campfire and somebody's like, hey, did you ever hear anything crazy while you were on, back in the day? Well, let me tell you about this one time. And I've got that story ready to go.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so much fun. So, that gets me excited because this is like, it's a way I just don't normally think of characters when I'm making them. And these are the type of questions we should be asking because it makes those characters so much more real.
Clearly, Chris and I both really appreciate the background chapter, Chapter 3. What are your thoughts? Hit us up, thievescantcast@gmail.com. If you are playing Draw Steel, you are further along than we are in the process. We're kind of intentionally taking our time. We like the slow burn, but we are curious how this thing plays. So let us know. Drop us a line. Don't forget, we'll see you Saturday for another episode of Thieves Cant in the in-between before we revisit with you next week on Thieves Cant Capers when we will get to Chapter 4, classes.
I'm excited.
Yeah, 9 heroic classes to dive into. There's no shortage of material that we've got to sift through.
We are going to go through these 9 before the 10th one comes out. Right. That's our promise.
Right. Yeah, if you didn't catch the last Saturday show, we did provide that news, if you're not already aware, that the Summoner class, the 10th heroic class for Draw Steel, has made it to public playtest. So it's floating around if you want to take a look at that. They call it a master class for the game, not for newbies.
Not for me. Not for me.
Nor me, friend. So, all right, with that, it's been another episode of Thieves Cant Capers. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. And we will see you next time. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
So long.